AT Network presents the Culture Conversations podcast. Up next, we have a guy that has done quite a bit in the industry. I'm going to let him just introduce himself, and then we're going to get to it real quick.
Many names. Some people call me D Ali, David Ali Strauss. A lot of people call me Strauss nowadays, but call me whatever you want.
Today, I got a real cool dude in the building, one of my Live Nation brethrens, and he's doing some great work. But first, before D get on the mic, we're going to go back a little bit and talk about his entry into the music industry. What's up, man? How you feeling today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Blessed. Just trying to stay busy, stay out the way.
Ain't that what we all be trying to do? Stay out the way a little bit?
Pretty much.
Man, you're loving this Detroit weather now? There's no snow. We didn't have a bad winter. It's looking real nice out here.
Yeah, man. When the weather starts to turn, it's beautiful. Next week, Movement Festival. A lot of techno, a lot of hip hop.
Yeah.
Be good. That's the kickoff of summer for me.
Oh, yeah. So let's dive into your career. I'm going to move around a little bit.
Yeah, wherever you want to go. I'll follow.
I want to start talking about how you got into music and what sparked you coming into the music industry. But let's talk about your love for music and where it came from.
Well, I think it all starts with my dad. He's a guitar player. So, growing up, even when I was little, 4 years old, he used to literally bring me into bars, play a set, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. He had a couple different bands. He used to play with Carl Carlton, who did She's a Bad Mama Jamma, all that stuff. And that's where
I didn't know you had that much music history in you.
Yeah, for sure. And he was good friends with Jimmy Ruffin, David Ruffin's brother, who also had a career on Motown within his own right. So I was always kind of around music. And then I had some cousins that were, 6 and 8 years older than me, and, they had probably the biggest hip hop tape collection, back in the day of Kwame, 3 Times Dope, Large Professor, Kid and Play, so just being absorbed in the culture like that, just Yo MTV Raps was the thing, so it was all I really wanted to do was rap. I started writing rhymes at 7 years old.
At 7? Do you remember that first rap?
No.
What's the first one you recorded though?
It sounds so I started trying to record. I feel like my dad had one of those old 4 tracks where no beat. I didn't know a producer, so it was just pretty much a click track and, just rapping a cappella, stuff like that. And, sounding I don't know, Run DMC, meets, that very A-B rhyme structure. Dope, but, before that compound rhyme structure.
But low key, right? If somebody brought that back today, it could work for them.
For sure. And I mean, it does work for a lot of people, right? Or, the way cyclical way of music is, I feel like sometimes you're waiting for somebody to just enunciate again, right?
Yep,
and
real talk.
Say full words. And then I think maybe, 7th, 8th grade, I think I started to sound more like me. In the beginning, it's imitation. You're just, repeating rhymes and things like that. But then eventually you start having your own experiences and hopefully your own voice.
So what was this group you were in, and what age, around what time and period was this in your life?
So I think the first time, I was really in a group was high school. I had a group called Cooperative Opposites. It was my homie Rich, and in high school, my homie Anthony as well. So it was just kind of 3 pieces.
Not me, y'all. Another homie.
A different one. And we play high school talent shows. You know what I'm saying? Or we go to parties in other cities and try to battle rap
in
whoever rapped
though.
In that school. Yeah, stuff like that, right? So I went to school in the direct suburbs, Berkeley High School, which is and I lived in Oak Park. So we'd go to random parties, and if somebody rapped, it was all right, well, got a freestyle.
Well, you was in the OP, so we already know how it went down the OP. So
absolutely,
you definitely can hold your own. You know, Royce Alden was around that way, so
yeah. And not fully, but Kid Vicious, we went to high school together for a little bit. So he's always been a great friend, and all that shit.
Man, I was in the studio with him probably 6 years ago, and I think I got something recorded that never got out. I don't even know if he got a copy of it. I do. I probably want him to. Okay. He might have to see it though.
That's still my guy. It's always love when I see him. So
yeah, that's cool. So, tell everybody your position right now at Live Nation.
So right now within Live Nation, I run the Fillmore in Detroit for Live Nation, and been doing that since concerts came back from the pandemic. Prior to that, I was assistant general manager over at St. Andrews, and working there and working up to that position for about the 10 years prior.
Okay, I just wanted to put that out there as we was going on, so people can understand the connection and where you were. Mm-hmm. So I also want to talk about too going to high school at Berkeley and how because it was a little different because I went to King High School, so it was a little different. How music was being developed during those time periods, because it was probably the late 90s, early 2000s for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, class of 2000.
Because we're the same. I knew we was the same age, so yeah. I figured it's the same time period. Because I'm looking like the friends that we both got. I'm like, yeah, we was around the same time.
That's right.
So I know that sports-wise connected these communities, but I know that music was being developed differently, and I say that to say, in the city, it was still a lot of trap, like going more towards trap music. And then in the suburbs, I felt like y'all was dabbling more instrumental, add more instrumental to it than we were. So with me working with people like Slum Village and all those, me and Young RJ, the stuff that we were doing, I was just noticing the difference in the musical sounds. So, what direction were you gravitating to during that time? Because from talking to you, you know about all music.
Yeah, but that's came later in life. I think, and through hip hop, right? Because you just start getting into the shit that people sampled, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like most of my music, I was just a super hip hop head till probably mid-20s, late 20s, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And being in Berkeley, it was definitely a different way to come into hip hop. Because I was when I say I had a group with my homie Rich and my homie Ant, we were basically the only three people that rapped in the high school, right?
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
We didn't see a lot of people rapping, and it didn't seem so big on a local level. So I don't necessarily at that point even have that Detroit history, the hip hop shop passed me by, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was only when I went to college, U of M, came back from U of M, and then started performing in the city, and then starting to make connections and meet people that were doing music, right? So pre that, I feel I didn't know anybody involved in the music scene. I mean, when I started to become a junior, senior in high school, that's when Royce was taking off. So it was Kid Fisher's brother, it's taking off. That's crazy, you know what I'm saying? And learning about Eminem, because I feel so much before that, it was just music just happens in New York and LA, and we can practice out here. Right?
But what's so crazy is, and I always give RJ Rice the credit, because me and Young RJ we played football together, and then he's my dad owned the studio. He's I know you into the music because I was doing stuff with some of the radio stations. That's how I know. But if you see Bush, he's known me since I was 14.
Love that.
And I used to come to radio stations, I used to do the meet and greets and stuff. And I don't know if you remember, I used to do the Jeans and Kool-Aid series for the Scream tours, all that. Okay. And throwing the parties and things of that nature. And a lot of people came through RJ's Southfield studio from all over. I mean, Lupe used to come down and record. He used to have Common coming all the time, and a lot of it was because he had Slum Village signed to his label. And then Dilla taught me and Young RJ how to run the boards and stuff. That's how we learned how to engineer. And then he started, Young RJ got deep in production. And then so Dilla was bringing, everybody was coming through to work with Dilla. Everybody. That's how I knew Proof. That's how I met all these guys. And so many New York artists, and even artists from Canada, was coming to Detroit and going to that Southfield studio, and they was getting a lot of jewels. So like New York did, they can't Q-tip all of them. All of them was in Detroit quite a bit, quite a bit. You wouldn't know it, you know, but they was in the city a lot, and a lot of people came through the city.
Yeah, and I absolutely missed
all that.
But when I think so, like what RJ was to you, I'd say when I was at U of M. Who was locking it down was One Below, aka One Man Army. So like in Subterraneous Records, which ends up breeding a Row Spit from that. Majestic Legend. Athletic Mike League is out there. Buff One's killing it. Eventually that becomes like Mayor Hawthorne branches off out of that, like Funkelligence. And so that was my first thing of like, oh, people are doing music locally and they're filling up places like
Row was my guy.
Absolutely.
Me and Row go way back because Black Milk Autumn was in the studios working with us, and Row made some waves from Pontiac. Like, in the sneaker culture, musically, like, he did some things. He need to kind of get talked about a little more because there's some stuff he did that wasn't being done.
Those flowers. And I think he gets them, and we'll continue to get them. And I think it, a lot of it for. I feel like a lot of us in the industry doing things that aren't necessarily always just, rapping vocally now all stems from that hip hop, which kind of gives you a structure of business of like, okay, I have a product. I need to go promote it, do the show. I need to sell something, have a revenue stream, sell the CD, sell the ticket, things like that. So, when I was in college, Ro was DJing as DJ Friction back then behind One Below. And like, they were filling up the Blind Pig frequently. And it was like, oh, there's a business behind this. And like, I feel like a lot of those guys, took me under their wing, and I was also just able to observe and like kind of take notes and be like, okay, imitation's the highest form of flattery. Let's do this. Let's figure out how to book a show at the Blind Pig, things like that. So when I come back to Detroit, I kind of come back with a little more of that business knowledge and know-how where I wasn't necessarily looking for shows to always jump on. It was just like, oh, like I can just talk to the owner of the venue directly and book this show, and now I'm booking you, right?
And the Blind Pig was a historic, still is a historic venue.
Super historic.
Like the Blind Pig, man, they don't be playing with you either. The audience, they come. That's a place you can really build an audience, and everybody has come through there. Like everybody has come there. It was like Blind Pig, St. Andrews.
Yeah, it's one of those places because, like, to get a little bit in the business of it, like the 400 cap rooms are a good place for an up-and-coming artist to tour and have their proving ground, right? 50 people look good in there, 100 people look really good in there, right? So, like Nirvana came through both a Shelter and a Blind Pig, things like that, and there's a lot more touring. The Blind Pig specifically for business, that was a time period where I feel like a lot of underground acts were all based around college campuses, which is always a good business move because you have a bunch of younger kids coming in, right? And if they see you there, then they leave for the summer and go spread your genius, right? Same thing with like Rhyme Slayers. I saw Atmosphere like a few weeks ago perform. Like he was locking down Minneapolis super big, and I'm sure the college campus had something to do with that as well.
Talk about that a little bit because you have knowledge in that about. I just want artists that's coming up to hear the process, like from your opinion and from what you know, what is the process from an artist getting started to even get into those venues like the Blind Pig and St. Andrews? How do they go about it? And then how would you move? Just from your opinion.
Well, so the game, I would like to state, like, I know very little in terms of today. I try to learn from the youth, right? Because you might feel like I feel. Like if I was like 5 years older, I feel like I would have made it, right? Because like we could really hit like right when we started flying and stuff like that, everybody's like, oh no, everything's going online with MySpace, Facebook, and all that. It's like, wait, I'm like hand to hand. I like to meet people in person.
And we was in between. We was in between because we did both.
Absolutely. But I think it's always the same, man. It's always the supply and demand, and don't overcomplicate it. So, for instance, when we were playing the Blind Pig, I think you always start out in the basement, right? And your first fans are always friends and family, right? They're supporters. So, start out playing those free shows or, a bucket show where it's like you're playing your buddy's garage and, drop some dollars in if you like what you're hearing, right? Maybe you're blessed to play some open mics. That's where you make your, you're kind of setting up your social network of people you can play with, right? But eventually you're always just going to some place like the Blind Pig and like, hey, like I can get 300 people here that can pay $200 or $20 a piece. That creates money, right? Like, can I play here, right? And more or less everybody's just looking at that, like how much money I'm going to make on ticket sales, you know, for the most part, right? A venue is, you know, right and just to give most of that money to the act, right? So you're thinking about other things, right? How heavy does that person's crowd drink, right? You know what I'm saying? Which another person locking down Blind Pig back in the day, Paradigm, right? Legend, right? You know, and like, it didn't matter, you know, like he was selling it out, but also his crowd drank so much. So, you know, it just makes business. It's what revenue streams can I create off of that? So I think the most simplistic thing for an artist is when you want to play somewhere, like you just have to have the amount of people to play. And I think it's always better to do it less is best, simpler, smaller first. If you think you can draw 100 people, find the venue that fits 50, right? You know, it's better to have people out of the door.
Outside, always make it look like everybody can't get in.
Yeah, for sure.
That was one of our marketing tools back in the day.
And when you hit that mark, then, you know, you can play the 200 person. So it's like simple steps, you know. I think what I, you know, like, and that's where the game switched so much for, like, say, me and you is there's ways to acquire a fan base without leaving your house now, right? You can get so many TikTok streams, reels, like, that social goes beyond I have to see somebody hand to hand. Like, you know, back in the day, it was really groundwork. Like, I had to meet all of these people personally. If I wanted them to come to my show, I'd have to physically go to other shows and flyer, right? I think you don't have to do as much of that, but it's also so much more difficult to keep a content stream going and going.
Oversaturated. You got to cut through.
Got to keep the market.
So before, you had to have some level of hard work and grit plus some money, build up some money to put money behind yourself. And then now it's like you got to figure it out marketing wise, how to cut through, how to cut through the noise. Yeah,
and it's, you know, so the amount of work is always the same. It's just shifted where you're going to put it. You know, my sister, I don't know if you're familiar with Mayani.
I've heard her before.
So she's my sister. And, you know, like, she's starting to, you know, get back into the music space, and her music's always been great, right? And our conversations circle a lot more about, like, okay, what's the content stream? Like, you just have to create that song, but you have to keep putting up TikToks with it, reels, 20-second clips, continual commercials.
So are you officially her manager?
No, I don't. I'm not officially anybody's manager, but I'm a big person on giving as much free game as I can to get to the next level, right? Because, you know, in essence, when I mention cats like a Paradigm, a One Below, right? People did it for me, so it's only right to pay it forward. So hopefully the next person can start at the level I was at and take it a little bit further. Share that information, right? So, you know, like, and I'm always trying to, like, you know, I like to stay a little more behind the scenes because, like, people don't ask you for as much. But if I can, you know, call a shot here, call a shot there, and steer somebody's career in a way, I'm always down to do it.
So my next question for you, since you gave the artist game, you've been on both sides. So corporately, if you're trying to move around the industry and build a career at a label or a Live Nation, the largest touring company in the world, how do they go about that? What are the routes now? And how would you advise them to do so?
I mean, some is just like everything requires a lot of paying of dues, right? You know, so when I first started working at St. Andrews, I was bartending because you bartend because everybody that does music bartends. Like, you can leave if I needed to go tour for a month, you know, and you can kind of come back and you can make a decent wage. And
I knew that about you and Mike, and I respected y'all so much for that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's how you, and also it's, you know, that's social on 100,000 trillion. Like, I could be serving drinks and be like, oh, check my shit out. Here's my flyer. You know what I'm saying? And when I had shows, a lot of people would just come to my early shows because they knew I was fun. They knew, like, you know, we were going to get drunk. And I was just a cool dude. They didn't need to know my music. Right? You know what I'm saying? They knew me, so they would come out, right?
And you're very approachable.
For sure, right?
Because that's not when we met. You were very approachable. So
for sure, But, like, that's the thing, right? Like, you know, in my mind too, it's always good to be approachable because anybody that approaches you is trying to get it. You know what I'm saying? So like you approach me about things, I'm like, oh, I already know you're trying to achieve higher levels because you're out there and you're putting yourself out there, right? So in terms of like, you know, once my last band broke up, which is, it's hard to, you know, keep building projects, right? Then I just had so much extra free time, like, because you know, music was my life in terms of that, right? You know, so then I just started working more, and then it started to happen fast because now I had all of this energy to put into St. Andrews, right? And, you know, like, so hip hop teaches you too. You find creative solutions to problems. If you can anticipate the problem, then you start working up. So coming up through the bar, you know, then I eventually managed the bar. But every step of the way, I'm still trying to learn the business. I think people, like, not skip that step, but, you know, like, say if I was just managing the bar and I was just fine with ordering liquor and staffing shows, like, you know, it could just end there.
And you can just be stuck in that same level.
Yeah.
Which might be your purpose. We don't know.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm sitting in an office, and you've been down in the basement of St. Andrews. Like, I'm sitting in an office with a production manager, an operations manager. All I'm doing is picking their brains.
What
so eventually,
do you do?
I'm like, hey, like, what's that contract? Could I read it? You know what I'm saying? Like, let me take a look at it. How's that business flow? You know what I'm saying? And, you know, in essence, you know, like, there's more complications the bigger it gets, because now, you know, the contracts at Fillmore could look like, I've seen a contract at LCA that looks crazy, right?
Yeah.
But it's still, you know.
And their booking fees are crazy.
Yeah, for sure. But it's always money in, money out. So the more you can do things, and then, you know, if you can continually get people in places. So I think one of the ways I provide value is I do try to stay connected to the local scene. So, you know, for instance, like we had Sean Paul this week, right? And, you know, I felt like we weren't getting the word out enough, right? But I know who does get the word out in Detroit on, you know, any reggae or Afrobeat event is Jerk and Joloff. So, like, I'm hitting them on the jack. Can I get you guys involved in the show? What do you guys need, right? They get involved in the show. Ticket sales go up, show successful, right? And, you know, you don't get to do that all of the time, but whenever you can, it's like chance favors the prepared mind. So I create those value adds as we go. Right? And that's
value
how
adds.
I've, you know, been able to rise up to where I'm at now. And, you know, I think every game is a young man's sport, so to speak, or I feel like you can be in it while you can treat it young. So every step I take, it's like, all right, I can only kind of be here for like 2 to 5 years, or I'm going to get bored, or I'm going to get, you know.
You get bored.
Yeah. So, you know, like, and I love the Fillmore, but I'm always thinking of the next step. Like, how can I pivot? How can I bring it on? You know, like, you know, I mean, nowadays things are so specialized, but I really want to figure out how we combine a little bit of like the yesteryear stuff. So, you know, take the Fillmore, for example, started by a guy named Bill Graham. Read his biography this year. It was not life-changing for me, but it was so eye-opening to see how they used to do it. I mean, he basically developed concerts to what we know them as now. And, you know, back in the day, a GM would, you know, also be the talent buyer, the production guy, you know, he'd wear all of these hats. So now things are so specialized because the game's gotten so big.
So many departments.
To wear all of those hats, but it's something that I want to, you know, I think as I learn more of each part of the business, I can become a little more of a grease in the gears to keep that machine flowing smoother for, you know, whether it's the Fillmore or bigger venues or a group of venues, right? Yeah. But also, you know, like, I love the artist side too, you know what I'm saying? So, like, you know, there's the machine, and, you know, like, there's pluses and minuses to that too, right? You know, so, like, you know, when you're asking me if I'm managing my sister, like, not necessarily, but if things started going that way, like, I wouldn't be mad at it, you know what I'm saying? And anybody I give free advice to, like, if I could, you know, get a little more on their page and figure out what they need, but also be able to value add. I don't feel like I provide much value there past, I think it should be this way for right now.
I know one thing. She would, once she grows to a certain level, you know what the structures are for the deals when they come through. You can make it lean more her way.
Absolutely. So, like, when it comes to shows, you know,
especially with the merch, especially with the booking fees, all that, you know how to make it lean her way.
Yeah, for sure. So with experience there, like, I know exactly how far to lean it before it breaks.
Yeah.
Right? Stuff like that. And I think that's, you know, where it's at in every industry, like somebody that works in sponsorship. They know where that deal breaks. So it's like, can I make it more favorable? And the more you learn, You know, it's just a collection of knowledge. Makes you tough.
Since we're talking about live shows, what do you think about the streaming portion for live shows? What are your thoughts on that?
What do you mean by the streaming portion for live shows?
What I mean is they're talking about once a show sells out, some of them was talking about going towards the streaming.
Yeah. You're talking about Veeps.
Yes. Yeah.
Which, I mean, on a lot of levels, I love it. You know, I think the fans have responded. Like, keep in mind, there's a point, you know, like, you know, within the last 5 years, I lose my job and I'm out of work, right? Because concerts shut down, right? So when you're scrambling, we're thinking like, all right, it looks like streaming's the way to go. Let's figure it out. Like, you know, like how can I get people to watch this on TV? Like, are we going to start buying better sound systems to make our home setup sound like a live setup? All of that stuff, right? Luckily, we don't have to fully do that, right?
Yeah.
Because it does seem like the fans have responded once they could go back to concerts.
They love the experience.
Yeah, you love the experience. So I think it provides a really nice auxiliary point. You know, for one, like, I think we still make concerts pretty affordable. But if it's out of your price range, perhaps you can buy it, right? Or if it's out of your distance range, you know, perhaps you can digitally attend, right? So I think there's a way that it really works. I think, you know, you don't want to necessarily have it to the point where people aren't coming to your shows and just watching the stream. But at the same time, I don't fear that either. I think, you know, all are really good if we can create high quality
I definitely
material.
wouldn't do it until the show sold out.
That's what, like things like
it
that.
would have to be sold out show, then we do that.
Or like a radius clause. Like you gotta, you know, like, because it's great to be able to see content at a high quality, you know. I mean, when we're talking about the pandemic and things shut down, like the rise of Versus, right?
Yes.
Like that was great. Like
it went crazy.
You know, we were outside hanging, but like, you know, like we go back inside to watch that Versus. Right? And it was like, you know, appointment viewing where you had to watch it in real time so you could talk about it with people.
And it was like some of us, it took us back in time to the rap battle scene and all of that, even certain type of special performances. And it was almost like we were reminiscing when you see Jada Kids versus Dipset and all that. And it was giving history to some of the young people that's like, who is this? You know?
Yes.
So I loved Versus. It was dope.
Yes, I agree. And so I think there's definitely a place for that. I think that'll continue to grow as well. Because, you know, frankly, in this world, like, we're face-to-face people. But, like, there's some people that, you know, just have a very much an online presence and don't like to go outside and meet people. And, like, they should be able to enjoy music in the way they want to as well.
We both worked on it when Dave Chappelle did the special at the Fillmore.
That was my first show working at the Fillmore, and that is trial by fire.
How did you manage that? Talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff and all that, because I wanted to talk to you about that. We never talked about it. How did you manage that? Like,
let me see. I don't know how much I can say, but I think I could be pretty candid. Like, you know, for me, I mean, a lot of it was trial by fire, right? Yeah. You know, so like that was the first show, I bet you, in Michigan that everybody was tested for COVID, right?
Yes.
So we didn't know how to support that. Like, you know, like we're in conversations like, oh, like, let's rent a garage. You know what I'm saying? We rented a garage, right? But you didn't know it was going to be an 80-degree day, right? You know, so it's like, you know, people are passing out in line to get tested. You know, like there was crazy things like that, right? The first day we had testing, I'm working indoor venues the whole time. I didn't get porta potties. I didn't even think about it. People were like, you know how many OSHA laws you're about to violate? We somehow called around and like got porta potties there within like the first 5, like, you know, like minutes of like opening the testing center. Otherwise, get grand opening, grand closing, right? You know, things like that. You know, it was this comedy special, so I'd never dealt with like filming contracts, things like that. You know, keep in mind, I'm coming from St. Andrews, which is the 1,000-cap room at the time, and never even thought about it, right? So, but we got it done.
We got through it.
We got it done, yeah.
Your face didn't give it like, it's over type. I think the staff handled it well.
And I think so too, right? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like, you know, I can get on the phone and chat with my boss and like, you did it. It's like, I had very little to do with it. Like, you know, it's like the staff, right? You know, like, and that's, I think, a tenet of business that, you know, will never get old is you take care of the people will take care of the business, right?
But you did manage very well. You
Thank
did
you.
manage properly.
Well, all I'm thinking about is doing my best to take care of the people, so they'll take care of the guests.
What made me love our company that day is the way everybody rallied together from all of our different areas. Like, no matter if you were at another venue, if you came from another office, like literally everybody came, and Chappelle staff, and who was it? What was the other company that was a part of it? Besides Chappelle team, I forgot the name of the film company. They were pretty cool too.
Oh, I mean, I think it was Dave Chappelle's filming company. You know, like,
it was them. It was somebody else. I can't remember who else it was.
I can't either.
Yeah, I can't remember who else it was. But everybody was like, we're gonna make this happen. And I love the speeches you gave too, because the people felt like cared about.
Yeah, and I think that was, I mean, definitely, you know, I think we still all hold that somewhere deep inside, right?
Yeah.
But that was like the first concert back at the Fillmore, right?
Yep.
And like, we are fighting for our jobs back.
Yep.
You know, we're hoping the world doesn't shut down again, because like, that was the craziest thing, right? First thing to go, last thing to come back is concerts, right? So it's just like, we're so happy to be back, and we're trying to keep the experience. And this year is the first year I feel like it's kind of normal.
And we hadn't seen each other in a while, but what was funny was I had just came back probably a week before that. I was down in Atlanta at Disney Marvel Studios, and I was down there working.
Copy.
And Mike was like, when I got back, Mike's like, yeah, it's time to get back to work. Mm-hmm. And the last movie I worked on was Black Adam. That's the last film I worked on.
That's the Rock, right?
Yep, Black Adam was the last one I worked on. And it's funny, on my TV show, that's what me and my wife was going through, because she's like, you need to come home. You know, I'm like, I'm on $100 million sets right now. This is a whole nother world, you know.
Yeah.
But I just think it was just like, I feel like God will bless me to see things that we don't get to see here and where we're going to go to. Because you've been around with the other states and been able to see certain things. Sure. And I just believe that Detroit has the potential. We're great at doing music. We're great at doing shows.
Yep.
We're to-be capital now. I think that we're working to become great at film as well. And is film an area that you would ever dabble in? Because you're a music guy, I know.
Yeah, short answer, yes. So, like, I mean, when I think about that, right? Yeah. Like, when you're talking about, I was coming off a film set, like, time to go back and do this Live Nation thing. Let's get a show on the road, right? But it's kind of blending the worlds, right, with the Dave Chappelle, because it's like, you know, Live Nation, and film, because it's so special, right? So I think Detroit, and ultimately all creatives nowadays, like, we're just in the get it done business, right? You don't have to have experience in music. Your experience, if your experience is in getting it done, you know, you have a punch list, we got to knock this out. I think you can do whatever you want to do. Yeah. Right? So, you know, I would love to do something in films. I don't know what I would do in films. I love to do something in everything. And I feel like that's what most people are doing these days, right? They're going in the direction of what moves them, you know? I mean, you know, Jay-Z's producing Broadway plays with Fela, you know, Questlove, Summer of Soul, like, you know, documentaries, right? You know, Childish Gambino, everything. Right? Comedy, TV shows. Yes, music, you know? So I think if you're just in the experience of being somebody that gets it done, it works through every medium of entertainment we know, right? Because it's just a punch list and finding somebody.
Man, I so enjoy Joyner Lucas. I just so enjoy his visuals the other day we had.
He's great.
Like, it's like to see an artist really put that effort in the skits and the video production. I mean, I want to see that again. I want to see that level of hunger in artists.
Yeah, that was a good show last night as well. Just seeing, like, you know, he's putting a huge amount of reinvestment back into himself with stage sets like that.
Oh my God.
That is such a production.
Yes.
Right? And I feel like, a lot. That's an arena level production.
Yes.
And, you know, call it a 3,000 cap space, right? You know, so arenas being like 15,000. So for him to reinvest it, and, you know, that, I think that's going to pay off super dividends for the fans, because, you know, just like we've done here, right?
Yeah.
You got to talk about it after. So now I am his PR piece, and every fan at that show we'll tell a couple more people, right? And that's how you play the arena. So it's like, that is the, you know, not even fake it till you make it. It's like, achieve it because you believed it, right? Like he's already set for that arena. So like, he's just going to get there because people are going to keep talking until he's at that level.
And he's going to keep getting better and better.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if you see the way he even worked the stage, how he just let everything flow. Like, I'm paying attention to all the little pieces and little nuances. I'm like, oh, he get it. Oh, he's leading the way. And then I didn't know that he did that song with Jelly Roll. I was like...
He has a major song with everybody. So I saw him last year. He played St. Andrews. So, you know, to tell you the progression, right? And, you know, to quickly talk about that progression, we're always thinking about Shelter, 400 person. St. Andrews, 1,000. Fillmore, 3,000.
Yeah.
Now you're at the boutique amp, 7,000. Then you're at the arena, which is 15,000, right? You know, so it's like dope seeing that progression, right?
Yes.
You know, one of the original GMs of St. Andrews was there last night, and we were talking. He's like, man, I remember when Kendrick played the Shelter, right?
I was on the tour when Kendrick did the one in Royal Oak.
Right.
Because we had, people don't know about this.
People forget about those progressions, right? Because when you have an album, then it's arenas automatically.
Because LeBron James had a group. People don't remember that.
I don't know about that.
I was there working the show.
I hardly believe you.
No, really, look it up. Like, he invested in the group, and they was on the same show with Kendrick. This is before he was K-Dot.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing.
Kendrick put in that work, though.
Yeah, for sure. But when he played at St. Andrews, like, you know, he had his track with Royce. Yep. Royce came out, you know, for the set, which was great, you know. So, and I like that he held it down solo. If I'm to be the least critical about that show last night, all of the acts on the show, I think, could have done very well by having a hype man.
Oh,
and where's the hype man gone?
Yeah.
Where's my Flavor Flav? Where's my Spliff Star?
Yeah.
Right? Like, just to, when you're getting to that bigger stage, when he's on one side of the stage, you need somebody to balance that energy.
To work the whole
stage. And
yeah.
I don't want to hear the TV track in the back. Have a human being do that. Yeah. That's the only critique I'd take on, you know, not just that show, but seeing New Cats. I feel like the hype man is not as much there anymore.
It's funny. That's been addressed before. The reason why it's harder to have a hype man nowadays is because a lot of people don't want to be number two because they want to be an artist too. It's hard to find guys to be, because they look like, even if I can captivate 40% of this. Yeah,
but I mean, it's so necessary. Yeah. Like, I think about another one of my you know, mentors, but also a dear friend, Dante LaSalle, if you're familiar. But he held down the Blind Pig for many years as well, and you know, it was like, I used to hype him. I mean, he'd hype me, but it was an honor for me to hype him, learn his songs. And like, we went on tour together, you know what I'm saying? All of that stuff. So I have an opening slot because I'm hyping him. So I've provided a value add for him as well. You know what I'm saying? So I think those things are so important. You know, like, there's very few moments in music now that are like carrying the crates for the DJ because it's just a USB drive, you know? So like, but if you're an MC, it creates a lot of skill too. You learn a lot about a live show by apprenticing under another MC and learning somebody else's style.
Everybody did it.
Fill the show.
Tupac carried crates.
Absolutely.
Everybody did it.
And he was a hype for Digital Underground. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was a progression. And I believe, like, I got a team. I believe in, you know, this is all of us and building as a team. And I hope some of them young guys will do like what you're talking about, get a hype man. But I think it's because they need to pull from their core. You know, pull from your core, your crew, and then even if you got to develop that person. Because, like, even my team, it's like I help develop people. Like, everybody's not going to come as the full package. Sometimes they might not be as good as that other guy that's going to charge you all this money that you don't have. Maybe you help develop and take people with you. Might be the best route for you to take. Yeah, no, it's a really big hole in music right now that, you know, I think people are starting to address more, but like artist development is pretty much non-existent in labels now. They just cut A&R departments. They're not doing that. And that's so important. It is. You know, like, so you see it in the live show, right? Yeah, like, I mean, they just want you to go viral, but you know what they're looking at? A lot of the corporations, the labels and them are acting like corporate numbers, and like, okay, viral moment, you got a hit. If we can get 2 or 3 songs out of them, we still own the content. Going on to the next. It's not like how it used to be when you get 5 albums out of an artist or a group.
Correct. Which brings me to another point about the music industry. The more you are willing to risk yourself, the greater the reward and control will be, right?
Yeah.
So, labels can definitely fast forward you and jumpstart you, but they are going to take a lion's share of that money and have all of the control. Absolutely. So, I've seen it, being in the game as long as we have. We know a lot of people that have been signed, been dropped, and nobody was none the wiser, and things like that. And it's because the label has all the control, and nobody cares about your career more than you. Right? So if they're handcuffing you, putting you in bureaucracy of making moves, right? It's never good for the soul in the beginning.
Yeah. Man, I can sit here and talk to you all day, my brother.
I've enjoyed it, man.
Oh, yeah. But this has been a great time. Man, I appreciate you even coming down. I know you're a busy guy.
Anytime for you, man.
And I just want to thank you. And I also just hope that a lot of young guys listen to you and accept the mentorship, because you are a guy with a wealth of knowledge.
That's peace. Yeah. And, in that way, always approachable, always available. And that's why I'm always, going to shows. Like, I'm not interested in necessarily seeing shows at the Fillmore. That's work, right?
Yeah.
I want to go to, in Detroit, your old Miami, your Lager House, your Spotlight, and see what's new and what's happening, right?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Culture Conversations. I'm your host, Anthony Thompson II, and we have another hit for y'all. Thank you. Appreciate y'all.